Hi, I'm Greta Oliver. Welcome to the EducateU podcast, your roadmap to learning tips, techniques, and strategies to enable your student to successfully navigate the road to and through higher education. Hi, this is Dr. Oliver. Today on EducateU, we'll be doing something a bit different. On our past episodes, we've had various experts, subject matter experts, individuals in higher education, and on the secondary level, coming to tell parents and students about the college going process and ways that the journey can be made easier. But today, I wanted you to hear firsthand from the students. And so what we have are some students who are currently enrolled in higher education institutions who want to tell you all about their transition, how they managed it, what things they did, what kind of issues confronted them. And they've all been very successful so far in college, and we expect them to continue and be successful and graduate. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the students in our segment, Voices from the Students, Making Our Transition Easier. Stay tuned. So why don't we just start with the name, school, year, and major, and we'll just go in the order of how you appear. So I believe Paul will be first.
Okay, yep. So I'm Paul Smith III. I am currently a junior over at UNC-Chapel Hill, and my major that I'm pursuing is computer science, BS in computer science.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to skip over here to the right. Stephanie.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Mayer. I am a senior at UNC-Chapel Hill, and I'm currently a media and journalism major and specifically focused in graphic design.
Okay, all right. All right, let's skip down to Lauren.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Brown. I am a junior at UNC Charlotte, and I'm an exercise science major.
All right, great. And Allison.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Holbrook. I am a senior at UNC-Chapel Hill, and I am double majoring in journalism with a graphic design concentration and history.
All right, good, good, good. I'm so glad to meet you all. And I'm so thankful that you're, participating on this episode. And I'm sure that the information that you will give will be useful and helpful to students coming forward. And so I want you to think about a moment that perhaps happened in your freshman year, your first year of college, when you think back, because it was a while, think back and come up with a moment, an episode, whatever you want to call it, where you got on campus first time, how you felt, and a transition issue that you were faced with, and tell us all about it, what it was, how you felt, and how you worked through it. So once again, we'll just start with Paul again.
Yep, so a transition issue that I faced when I first came to Carolina. So one of the things that happened for me was just getting used to the college lifestyle, the process. So what that called for me to do was get things scheduled out for myself on a calendar. So I used to do things with a agenda, just like a regular paper pen agenda. But then I started using Google Calendar. One of my friends actually introduced me to it and started scheduling my time out to the hours. So now for me personally, it's like, if it's not scheduled in my Google Calendar, it's not getting done. But it helps me also to find balance as well, because as I'm also working on work and schedule out times for other responsibilities, I also have time dedicated just solely for free time. So it helps bring that balance and focuses a little bit more on mental health and like making sure I'm at a good balance. So
okay, that's great. That's great. And you'll be glad to know that that is a tip that I give in my book. I know you didn't see my book, but we're gonna act like you did, okay? Right. That is a wonderful, wonderful tip. Using calendars or schedulers, either paper or online, to kind of get yourself organized and have some accountability in what you're supposed to be doing at any given time. And you need that as a college student. So that's very important. Okay, thanks so much. All right,
Okay.
let's skip over.
Okay,
Steffi.
so what I was thinking about when you asked this question was this sense of loneliness that I felt when I first came into college.
Mhm.
I was, as you were saying, I was away from my parents for the first time. I wasn't used to, the way everything worked. I wasn't used to scheduling things for myself. I wasn't used to all of this. And I just felt really lonely and looked around and thought, everyone seems like they're not super lonely. What am I doing wrong? And I realized that the thing that I was missing was I wasn't, putting myself out there and joining organizations and doing things that really facilitate those connections. I mean, I had a roommate who I got randomly assigned to, and we just didn't really click. And, that happens for some people. And the way to combat that, I think, is to find organizations either related to what you want to study or just other hobbies or interests, so you can find like-minded people and you can start like working your way through those organizations. And the more you do that, honestly, the more friends you make. I mean, my first few years at college, I don't think I did that enough. And these last few years, I've made so many more friends that I think will be lifelong friends through like putting my time and effort into stuff that I enjoy and can get me connected to people.
Good point. I think you were looking in my book as well. I'm just going to take credit for everything, actually. But that is something that a lot of students face, is loneliness, especially if you're somewhat shy, maybe introverted a little bit. And also, like you said, you were kind of used to your parents or someone else doing things for you and kind of guiding your life, really. And so now you're on campus and somebody's got to do it, and mom and dad aren't there. And so this is just something that, a lot of people do face, and I think it's so important that you realize that, the way to find these friends, especially friends that are going to be friends that will bring you up, lift you up, and are also interested in the things that you're interested in, is to get into some organizations. There are a lot of organizations on campus, and a lot of them are, going to lead you to finding, like you said, lifelong friends that you will have for your entire life. And so that's one of the things that I can look back and say I did have some good friends from college. I didn't have as many friends as I probably could have had, because I was also one of those kind of people that, was somewhat lonely, but I did get in organizations. I did get some friends, and they are my friends to this day. And so that is so important, because you got to realize that everybody needs somebody, I guess I want to say, and everybody needs like companions and things like that. So to get out there and put yourself out there, become vulnerable, and, kind of put yourself out there, and you'll find other people that will be accepting of you, and you can, really connect with people. And that's very helpful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so now we're back to Lauren.
All right. So I wanted to say my story is a lot like Paul's. When I got to college, I realized that I had so much time. In high school, everything is structured for you. You go to school all day, you come home, and you do your homework. But when you get to college, you have so much free time. I remember my freshman year, one of my first classes wasn't until 11 a.m. So I'm sitting here with all this free time, and sometimes that can be scary without structure. So figuring out what I needed to do to establish routines and really finding the value in time management and structuring my time and figuring out, when my best times for studying were, and also making that time out, like Paul mentioned, to have some social time or some time to myself to make sure that my mental health was also okay.
Absolutely. That's very, very important. I can't stress it enough. Once again, also in the book. Thank you so much for reading that book ahead of time and not letting me know about it. Okay, now Allison.
Yeah, I think I'm going to speak about something close and similar to what Stephanie was talking about, but a little more isolated in the roommate situation. So I know everybody has different experiences with shared living environments. I know I had shared a room with my sister before, but I wasn't mentally prepared for like sharing such a small space with another person. I think it was about a month where my roommate and I weren't communicating very well. We weren't really communicating at all. It was very much in and out of the room. After a little while, I just started avoiding the room, and it was nothing negative between either of us. We just weren't communicating. So I eventually started opening up to these new friends that I was making. I was asking them about their experiences. I started talking with my RA, who is somebody who is in charge of my hall, and was like, how do you think I should approach these conversations? They were exceptionally helpful. And after that, we both became very close friends, and I still talk to her to this day. I can participate on IM sports teams with her. We are very well connected now. It just took, those initial first months can be a weird adjustment period when you're learning to live with somebody else, but otherwise we are fantastic friends. And it was just establishing like a mode of communication that worked for both of us and talking through that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, roommates are in the book. I just can't, I'm batting 1,000 right now, but that's very important because, you know, especially if you don't know, you can have problems if you know your roommate sometimes when you go to school and you have your roommate already picked out, or if you don't, because you may not find that you have a lot of things in common with the person that you end up with in a random selection. And then maybe if you know your roommate, it might be too close, too much familiar, you know, space between you. And so that was my case when I went to school with my roommate. We were roommates. We were going to be roommates and we were going to go to college together and we're going to be roommates forever. It did last the first year. But near the end of the first year, it was some of that not really communicating and kind of feeling taken for granted, you know, and things of that nature. And so, you know, it can be problems either way, especially when you're not used to, you know, being around and with someone in a small residence hall room. And so I get that. And so I'm glad that you were able to, you know, navigate that and make that work to your advantage. Now, one thing that I noticed about everyone except you, Allison, is that the transition issue that you guys discussed was something that you were able really to figure out on your own. You know, it was something, okay, you need to be organized, okay, or you need to join some organizations. And those are also transition issues. And so I want to point out now that you can have transition issues where you have to do something to make it better. And then you can also have transition issues where maybe you need to reach out to somebody else to help you, like maybe your RA or talking to the resident hall director or talking to your friends or getting some information from someone else to help you be able to manage whatever it is. And so you have to also keep that in mind, that, you know, sometimes you have to actually do something and sometimes you have to actually get some help. And so one of the things that I want you guys to remember, and anyone that's viewing this to remember, is whatever your issue is, there is no such thing as something that's not a valid issue. It's a valid issue if it's something that's concerning you and it may be impeding your success in higher education. And so you need to get whatever help you can. Also, I noticed that you guys all mentioned mental health. Every single one of you mental health, and that is so important right now, especially with all that we've gone through, you know, in the last 2 years with COVID, all of the things that we've seen happen actually on UNC campus, people, you know, committing suicide, things of that nature, feeling like they don't have an out, they don't have anyone to speak to, they don't have anybody that understands, because, you know, mental illness is a very real thing, and mental health is the way that you combat that. And so one thing that you need to all know and tell everybody that you can is if you need help, you need to go and get some help from mental health counselors that are on your campus or near your campus. And everybody, there should be no shame in that, because everybody at some point kind of feels overwhelmed. Now, the you know, magnitude of them feeling overwhelmed is, you know, sometimes the difference between maybe, you know, you being in a state of, you know, a mental state that is not really, really positive. And so you just have to be able to reach out and get the help that you need. And so I did have someone come on the podcast that is a mental health counselor and kind of talk about mental health and how important it is, especially to students, because students have a lot of things on their plate. And sometimes you get so many things on your plate, it just takes one more thing, one more thing that just kind of tips it over, and there you go. And so she was suggesting, because she is a therapist, that everybody have a therapist. And I really don't even really see anything wrong with that. And if you don't have a therapist, at least have someone that you can talk to, somebody that you can talk to, and that will not necessarily give you information, but maybe just listen to you, because a lot of times people don't feel heard. And so just keep that in mind. And so as we round up the end of this, I just want to know if you guys have any suggestions or tips that you can give to students who are coming on campus for the first time students, that, just kind of something that you feel you wish maybe you had known when you came. Do you have anything that you can think of that, kind of resonates with you as far as, where you should go or what you should do to make the transition easier?
So personally, something I wish I had known sooner was just like the sheer amount of resources available to me through my school. So for me personally, as like the graphic designer, the entire Adobe suite plus like LinkedIn Learning is offered through my school. And like, I wish I had known that the second I stepped on campus, because I would have been developing my skills and doing all that I could with that, the second I could. And just like resources anywhere from the libraries to the technology that you can like check out or use there when you've got a computer that's failing for some reason and you have an essay due the next day. I think that's such an important part of like using the tuition you're paying towards your education, is making sure that you take advantage of all of that. Right. So students being aware of the resources that are available to them that maybe you just don't know about. And, that's very important. And I know UNC has a lot lending and all that, because I did the Chuck Stone program before. We had all kinds of, lendings of cameras and, equipment and everything else, and computers and everything else. And so a lot of schools may not have that, but they may also have that. So you have to be aware of what's available on your campus, and campus books in the library, sometimes computers in the library you can use, printers that are available where you don't necessarily have to have a printer, all that is very, very important. So that's a really good tip as well. Does anybody else have anything else that you wish you had known as a first-time student?
Right. So I would like to say, there's two parts to it, actually. So if you need help, reach out for it. And I'm talking more so in the academic sense. And bouncing off of Stephanie's answer in terms of there being so many resources available. There are so many resources available over at universities. And remember, your tuition is paying for it. So you might as well take advantage of it, whether it's from financial aid, academic coaching, and all sorts of things. And then on top of that, also, for each class, a way to help kind of manage things better and create a smaller circle of people that you could study with, things of that nature, to make sure you're on top of your work, is just create study groups. For example, I know, especially over at Carolina, that we all use GroupMe for our study groups. And, just in case, say, whether you might have forgotten about an upcoming quiz that's on the horizon, or if the assignment may be due, something along those lines, or you could even talk to those within the group chat and maybe remind them, hey, how's that assignment treating y'all? How do y'all feel about the upcoming test? That type of thing. And then y'all can schedule out time with each other to study and make sure y'all as successful as y'all could possibly be for your assignments. So.
Absolutely. Because really that's why you're there, so you might as well get the grade while you're there.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of study groups and help, because after all, that's why you're there. That's the story you told your parents anyway. When they dropped you off, you're supposed to be getting an education, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anybody else?
I would encourage my first year and second year self is I was very intimidated by professors. I always thought that like when they would invite you to office hours, I was like, oh, that's great. I don't really have a question for them. I probably won't go. In my last 2 years of college, I've really tried to engage outside of class with my professors, whether that's asking history professors about like world politics or trying to garner certain skills through my other classes. I think they definitely have been very open and willing to engage with me as a student and advance me as a professional whole rather than just within the classroom. And so I definitely recommend that people go and seek out their professors because for the most part, many of them will be very receptive to speaking with you because they are there to help garner you as you step into the world and into your next steps. And so I think that's something I would encourage my younger self and anybody who's coming to college. Don't necessarily be afraid of them. If they're encouraging you to come speak with them, they're very open to hearing what you want to say and hope that you would take something away from them into your next few steps.
Absolutely. I certainly agree with that. You know, teaching itself and being an educator is already like, it's a very, very special profession. And most people, I'm going to say, that are involved in that, they are there because they want to help students. And so I would just encourage that from the onset to develop relationships with your professors, develop relationships with other people. You never know when you're going to need that person or even be able to help that person in the future. And so I would certainly agree with that. And so I know that you have at least one professor that he'll do anything, just about anything. Sometimes I have to stop him and make him stop working. So, you know, it's there in his heart and it's in the hearts of many professors to be useful and helpful to their students. And they really do care about your success. And so certainly would agree with that. All right.
Yes. So I'm a freshman counselor right now. And the three biggest things that I like to tell my students is one, campus involvement. Coming to campus and the organizations that I've been a part of since my freshman year, I've been a part of them and I'm still a part of them my junior year. And they've introduced me to people and communities that I wouldn't have even connected with if I didn't join them. So joining those organizations and not being afraid to join them either. You know, there's going to be people just like you there anywhere. Right. So join those organizations. Two, time management. People often like to say that college is the best time of your life. And yes, it's going to be fun and there's going to be social events and all of that, but you are there for learning and you are there to get a degree. So make sure that you are on top of your stuff, you're organized, and you're going to class. And my last thing is eating. So eating is very important. You're not going to want to go to that dining hall all the time. There's going to be snacks in your dorm. Sometimes you're going to forget to eat, but eating and eating healthy is very important. It's something that you have to do every day. Okay. So make sure you have it together.
All right. Okay. I feel like I got a lecture right there. Absolutely. I agree with you. And so that's all very important information. Hi there, I'm back. Don't touch that computer. Don't touch that phone. Stay tuned for yet another cameo appearance by our student and friend, Camryn Ware, who would like to join the group in talking about her experiences as well. Thank you so much for hanging in there.
My name is Camryn Ware. I'm a junior exercise science major and I go to Winston-Salem State University. Say that I had transitions when I first came into college, like with friends and everything, but for something that's more recent, it would definitely have to be the transition from going from in-person to online learning because of COVID. I was fortunate enough to experience my first semester of college in person before COVID came in 2020, spring of 2020. And it really was hard on me because I'm a tactile learner, I'm a visual learner, yeah, all the above. So I need somebody there in front of me showing me how to do stuff. personally being able to touch and feel things. For instance, I'm an exercise science major, so like the skeletal bones, like they have the skeletal model, me being able to actually touch and feel, seeing where the different landmarks are on the body. But we transitioned to online, so I had to look at pictures, and it's just not the same effect. Also, being online, it was hard to keep my focus. I'm going to be completely honest. Like having a Zoom class, I could be on my phone and then have Zoom on the computer, or be watching a movie. Like, just there's so many different distractions than being home. It's like you're not in a classroom setting. So the house phone could ring. Somebody else could be playing music downstairs. My parent could be on a call in their office and I can hear it. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that I had to kind of sort of adjust to. Also, I would have to say finding the inner strength to keep pushing. A lot of times I was like, this college stuff is a lot. Even though I was just a second semester freshman, it was just a lot for me because I'm like, I was doing good. First semester, I got straight A's, and now it's like I can't even really focus. My attention span is short. So I really just had to have that intrinsic motivation that, okay, at the end of the day, I'm here for the degree. I want to get a career in the field that I want to be in, be happy, make money, start a family, and, do all that stuff. So it was really just the intrinsic motivation. Like I really just had to keep reminding myself of the end goal, and also make small goals that lead up into that end goal, so that I had certain little marks throughout the year that I was like, okay, I want to be able to do this by this time of this year and stuff, which kept me going. And then I did struggle actually sophomore year. So this was still in COVID, because COVID's been lasting for forever now, it seems like. It was difficult because we were still online, and I don't really remember exactly everything that was going on that day, but it was a bad day. Let's just put it that way. It was a bad day. I was already stressed out, and I was in the middle of a quiz on Lockdown Browser, which is the online way that we take a quiz, and the whole thing just shut off. So you could only imagine, how I was feeling. I was going through it mentally already. I cried. And I don't really, cry a lot, but I was going through it. And so the professor that I had in the class, she was very intimidating. Like she was very strict and everything. And I was kind of nervous to reach out to her, but at the same time, I knew like what my purpose was. And I knew that like I had to fight for, my grade. So I emailed her and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like it just shut out, this, that, and the third. So she immediately responded with, hey, here's a Zoom link. Like just join it when you can. So I joined it, and I expected her to ask me, what happened, this, that, the third. But immediately when she saw my face, she gets crying. She could tell I didn't have a good day. And she started asking, how am I doing? How's my day been? Well, what's been going on? You don't have to talk about it, but I'm here, letting me know to put my mental health first, letting me know of all my resources in the counseling center with the therapist that we have that's included in our tuition, which at one point, I didn't even know we had therapists like that we could just go to. So it really helped me. And, it resonated with me that she actually cared. She said, all academics aside, I want to hear about you. I want to hear about how you're doing. Mm-hmm. She told me not to worry about the quiz, she'll handle that later, but she cares about me in this moment. And in that moment, I realized how important it was to form a relationship with your professors. Like as scary as they might seem and as strict as they might seem, they still have a heart. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, well, don't worry about this. I want you to be good, everything else good. So that was something that I went through. It wasn't the biggest thing, but there was a lot of things going on with me mental health. So, sometimes it's like, oh, that's the last thing that you would have ever wanted to happen. But she was there for me, and that really helped. So really just the intrinsic motivation that I had to keep striving for greatness, and at the knowing the end goal, and then the extrinsic motivation of my professor and her caring about my mental health, because a lot of people, kind of surpassed that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm jumping in because I want to know how you dealt with the fact that you're a tactile learner and you like to feel things and you wanted to identify those bones and things. So without you being able to do that from your first story, what did you do to help yourself to be able to still stay on top of your studies during that time?
So personally, I just I didn't have the actual bones, but I definitely looked on YouTube because there's a lot of good studying devices that will kind of put it in layman terms per se. And I definitely relied on that. And then also personally, I'll print stuff out bigger than it was, and just coloring. I was a kid, pretty much I used coloring, coloring the skeleton, all that type of stuff. Yeah, and pretty much just finding stuff around the house that I could, I guess, relate it to a bone or whatever class I was in. Props around the house. I just had to make do with what I had.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So I'm glad to see that you got the help, from within. You reached in and you found what you needed to move forward. And also glad to see that your professor just opened her arms to you and embraced you as a person rather than a student or a number. And so she knows who you are and she knew what you were going through and she showed care toward you, which is very, very important for any student, especially somebody going through a lot. So that's
Right.
really good to hear. So the last thing I want to ask you is, are there any tips that you feel like you could leave with, some students that are coming to college for the first time, any kind of tips, strategies to make it easier for them? Do you have anything to lend to them?
Yeah, this is kind of hard because it's I'm still, although I'm a junior right now, I'm still,
You're still a college student.
Yeah, I'm still learning myself.
Right, absolutely.
But one thing, I guess, to put it into terms of one thing I wish I would have known when I first came into college was, first of all, to trust the process, because although things might not be seeming like they're going the way you want it to go, there's always a reason for things to occur. So trust the process. Don't get stressed out. Just take deep breaths in and out. I guess to put something with that, have some self-care. Self-care is always important, whether you're a college student, high school student, an adult that's post-grad, take time for self-care. And I like to set an alarm clock at certain hours of the day for, even just 30 minutes. Although I might be in my studies really hard, I have to understand my mental health is just as important as my physical health. So I can study for a few hours, but I do need to set aside 30 minutes to listen to some music I like and sew a shirt. So, do stuff that I like to do just to keep me sane and, feeling good. And then another thing, I guess I would say, don't be afraid to reach out to professors because you don't know until you ask, as most people say. Just like what I said earlier, I was intimidated by her. Excuse me, still to this day. She's kind of intimidating, but it's not I feel closer to her. It's I know she doesn't play, she's strict, but I can talk to her as a person and rather than just a number. Lastly, I said, hold on, self-care, trust the process, reach out to your professors. When it comes to friends, because I dealt with this freshman year, it's a completely new ball game because, elementary up until high school, you're in the same area. So you kind of go to school with all the same people. Whereas college, everybody's coming from different states, different countries, all that stuff. So everybody, it's a whole new playing field. So I would definitely say be open to people when it comes to everybody's ways of living and stuff like that. Because everybody's different. So don't be so stuck in your ways that you can't befriend somebody that's a little bit different from you. And then also make sure to guard your heart because, some people aren't in college for the right reasons. So, but definitely be open and knowing that everybody comes from different ways of life and just have fun, get involved. Oh, that's another one. Get involved. I'm sorry. I have a mouthful of stuff to say, but I'm going to put that, just get involved. I was personally involved a lot in high school. So when I came to college, I knew I wanted to get involved. And that's helped me to make so many different connections up until now. I'm still making connections. I'm a president of the mental health organization on my campus. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I've been involved in, but if I wouldn't have started freshman year, I feel like I would have kind of not made the friends that I have now. I would have missed out on opportunities and stuff like that. So I'm gonna just keep it at that, because I already.
That's great. All of that is wonderful, wonderful advice. And every single one of those are important points. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and just telling us all about your transition and how you managed it. I want to encourage you guys to just remember the tips and the suggestions that these students have given, to be able to reach out for help when you need it, find your resources on campus and off, and do everything you can to be organized and accountable with your time and your studies. And so all this has been very, very important, and I think it will be very useful for students to come. And so thank you so much. See you next week on EducateU. Thank you for joining us today on EducateU. If you wish, you can send me your questions or comments about the college going process or the podcast contents by sending an email to Dr. Greta at gretaoliverconsulting.com. Also, beginning each week after the podcast airs, check for a companion blog on my website's blog page at gretaoliverconsulting.com. My book, College Roadmap, Essential Tips for First-Time College Students and Their Families, is available for sale on Amazon.com. Join us next week for another tip or strategy to make the road to higher education easier for your student.